Mumbi Macharia is the personification of poetry. I actually don't like saying I'm a poet. I like saying I'm the personification of poetry. But I am a writer, performing spoken word poet from Nairobi. Yeah, I'm just a girl living life. What makes me happy? Well, I'm happy right now. So I don't know. I think being surrounded like by art and like creativity, stuff like that.
So your love of art.
Yes. Yeah.
From performing to
Yeah, I love performing, writing. I don't like writing all the time. Writing it can be stressful sometimes, but the after product, like the performance, I love performing. Yeah.
Don't worry.
Something that I don't love. So not necessarily something I hate, just something I don't love. I don't love. What do I not love? I don't love like being lied to. I think I don't like lies. Like, I mean, okay, let me not say that, but I don't like being lied to. Yes, I don't love being lied to. Yes. The strongest memory of my childhood. So I actually always tell people I think I have a problem because I don't remember my childhood like at all. Like I have a complete blackout of my childhood. I don't know why. And people say like that happens like if you had like a traumatic like childhood. I don't think I did. So I don't know why I don't remember my childhood.
not even the shaky bit.
No, I remember when I was in class 4, my school had an award for like the nicest girl, and I won that award. I won it in class 4 and 5.
Oh, nice.
So I remember those prize giving days, yeah.
You're a good girl.
Yeah. A lesson I've learned is that if people want to do something, they will. Like you don't have to ask someone like thrice or 4 times. Like I've learned like if someone really wants to do something, they will. Yeah. So like don't force issues, I think is the thing I've learned. Yeah. So I actually started as a rapper. I started to be a rapper. My rap name was Kenyan Shilling.
Why Kenyan Shilling?
I don't know. I used to be on Tumblr like when I was in high school, and Tumblr was like the site that like people were like super creative with their usernames. So my username was Kenyan Shilling. And then when I was in high school, I started writing music, like being a rapper. So my name was Kenyan Shilling. Yeah. But then I also used to love to write like compositions. So one day my English teacher signed me up for like inter-school like writing poetry competition. So I wrote my first poem for that, and then I just kept performing poetry from there. Actually, the plan was to be a rapper. Yeah.
Did you do any gigs as a rapper?
No, I never got beyond writing raps in my exercise books. But maybe I still write like music till this day. I just keep them in my folder. But a lot of them, I turn them into poems. So I have a poem song, it's called Sad Girl Hours, which is like rap and poetry. I still want to be a rapper.
We're here for that.
Poetry, it's just a way. I realized that the things I was writing about, like I started by writing poems like about like boys in my class or like heartbreak, and this was me being like 17 and like writing a poem about like how like oh my gosh I'm so heartbroken. And then after high school I started performing at open mics, and then I realized that I was being vulnerable, yes, but it's something that a lot of people either related to or were interested in hearing. Because at first I was like, why would anyone be interested in hearing me perform a poetry about like my personal woes as a person? So yeah, it's just a way of being like vulnerable that I like. What has inspired me the most to write? Well, I write mostly about like things I go through. And I guess just knowing that like there are other people going through the same thing, so that inspires me to keep writing. But also, I really love performing. Like I remember when I was younger, I had never spoken on a microphone like ever in my life. And like I just used to have this dream, like one day I want to talk on a microphone. Like I don't know what I want to say, I just want to speak on a microphone. And then now, like most places I go, I'm performing on a microphone. So it's just like an ode to like living out that dream that I had. So like yeah, telling my story, telling people's stories, and then just doing something that like when I was younger I was super shy. So like I never thought that I would like have something to say that like people would be interested in hearing about. So I think that's like what motivates me. Like look, here I am, like I did it, you know. Yeah, if I'm being honest. Everything I write about is just about me and like the things I go through. So a lot of my poems are just about like love, heartbreak, femininity, African pride, sometimes sex. Just like when I started writing poetry, someone told me you don't start writing poetry until you start telling the truth, which I found to be really powerful because I'm only able to like truly express myself if I'm writing about something I know. Yeah, so my poetry is me. Like if you wanted to get to know me, like just listen to my poetry. So I once wrote a poem about someone and they were in the audience. And like from the way I wrote the poem, I knew that like this person would know that like this poem is about them. And after that performance, they came to me and they told me, stop writing poems about me. So like yeah, sometimes I am, because like sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, am I oversharing? But then like no, like it's my truth, and like I don't know, like people relate to it. So these days I'm not afraid of oversharing in my poetry, because I feel like that's what poetry is. Like if you go for a poetry open mic, you're literally going to listen to people oversharing, which is my favorite activity. So
Have you ever had like a bad experience after that?
Like after a performance?
Yeah.
No, I actually haven't. So always the opposite, like people being like, thank you for like that performance, because I'm going through the exact same thing, and like I don't know why these guys don't get it, but like your poem said it perfectly. So yeah. So my very first poem, it was called A Stained Wedding Dress, and I remember I wrote it about a boy in my class in high school. But ironically, I feel like that's one of like the best poems I've ever written, because it was just, and I always try to get back to that like vulnerability, because at that time I didn't even know what spoken word poetry was. So I was just literally writing my truth, like my story, like in a way that rhymes and flows and yeah, so I don't cringe. I'm just, if anything, I'm like, how was I thinking like this? Like that actually blows my mind. I keep all my poems, I write them on foolscaps and then I put them in a folder, and then like every once in a while I go back to look at them, even with like posters of like events I've headlined. Like if my name is ever like on a poster, I always print that poster out and I keep them. If like I'm on a ticket, like I keep the tickets. I don't know, because like I honestly never thought like my poetry would like, yeah, like it still blows my mind. So I just go back to look at them. Like when I was writing this, I didn't think people would listen to it and like love it the way they do. So yeah, real life situation that inspired me like to write a poem or like
do whatever you're doing at the moment.
To do whatever it is I'm doing. Okay, apart from that dream I always had of talking on a microphone. I think when I was in high school, just when my teacher like signed me up for that competition, because literally there was no one else like she knew or thought of who can like sign up to write an original poem. So I think just that like belief that she had in me. And even when I started doing my first open mic, so I started doing like Kwani open mic and poetry after lunch at the Kenya National Theatre. And the hosts I met there, I remember Cindy Ogana was the host of Kwani and Kenneth B was the host of poetry after lunch. And for me, I was performing at those open mics, like, let me just try it once and then just like never go back again. But I remember like those two people like even kept calling me back, like, girl, you have to come back, you have to perform. So I think just like that belief that they had in me, I think like pushed me to actually want to do poetry. Even if I didn't know what doing poetry meant at the time, I still don't. But like, yeah. Do I always expect them? In the past, maybe no. But then these days when I write, it depends on how I write the poem. Because some poems I write them specifically to have an impact. Like there's a poem I did with my friend Shingai and it was about ending rape culture. So like poems like that, I do them because I want them to have an impact on society and how people think. Other times I'm just writing just because I want to vent and I don't know, just like to inspire people to be vulnerable also. I feel like if we were all vulnerable, if we all overshared, it would be a better world. Any projects locally or internationally? Well, okay, I don't know if like this counts as project, but like in Kenya, like performing at like big like festivals or like big events, because poets don't really perform at like I don't know, big events. So I think like a dream of mine is to perform at like a big like Kenyan like festival or events, and like to see poetry like on such a stage, you know, like I don't know, places like Blankets and Wine or something like that. Yeah, I think that's something I'd really love to do. But yeah, but this year I've worked on a lot of interesting projects. I've written poetry for UNICEF, the Global Financing Facility, like a lot of like big international organizations. So those opportunities I'm thankful for this year. Last year I worked with DSTV. So yeah, now I want to do like local, like Kenyan, like big events. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So in school I studied law. I'm not practicing law at the moment, but I enjoyed studying law. I think maybe in future I will want to go back to it. But for now, I'm doing poetry and writing. I'm working on a novel, well, a short novel, like a collection of African fiction stories. So I want to be a writer, like an author in future, yes. I don't know if that counts as a career path.
Yeah, it does actually.
Fortunately for me, I think my mom always knew that like I was a creative writer. So I think when I started doing poetry, it was just an acknowledgement, like the world was starting to acknowledge like this talent I had. So she was really excited for me, actually. So I am lucky in that department. Yeah, my family is super supportive of me doing poetry. Yeah.
That's nice.
Of success. I don't know. In one of my poems I say, people always tell you that you made it as if they knew where you were going. So it's like, sometimes do you really know what success like looks like to you? Because like to one person they would look at you and be like, wow, like he's really made it, he's like succeeded, and to you there's always like a step higher that like you want to go to. So I think my mantra is just one, to never be complacent and like too comfortable. Like I'm never too comfortable in like an area of my life that I'm in. So just like keep trying for more. and like, yeah, how will you know you've made it if like you didn't know where you were going? I don't know, I like to think I'm funny. I recently started doing stand-up comedy.
Oh, nice.
I think I'm funny. I think I like bring joy to people when I'm with them. I don't know. I've never been around people and like it's bad vibes. Like it's always like good vibes. So I like to think that I am a light to people's lives. I don't know. Maybe my friends are better suited to answer this question. I don't know. But yeah, I care about my friends, my family. I feel like I'm advertising myself.
That's the purpose of the question.
Yes, if my future husband is watching, I can cook, I can clean. I'm joking. Yeah, and I always get like so many messages from like young upcoming poets who are like, what is the key, or like what was the blueprint? But spoken word in Kenya, it's still a growing field. So even us who I think like people are looking up to us as like the more established poets in Kenya, a lot of us are still trying to figure it out as well. So what I can say to upcoming poets is keep performing, like just perform. For me, I am a child of open mics. I used to go to every single open mic show I could find and just perform, just because I just loved performing. And then the more you perform, the more people call you, come be the featured poet at our event. You can start doing your own events, like just keep performing. Like for me, I vouch for open mics heavy, and like shoot your shots at people and say like, hey, can I come perform? I don't know, that's just what I did. Sports. I rarely watch sports, but when I do, I like to watch athletics. Like people running, like I enjoy that a lot.
Like Olympic short distances.
Yeah, even like marathon, short, yeah, just like athletics in general. I feel like that's my favorite sport to watch. Yeah.
It's interesting because like when we talk to most people, they're fans of football, such, so like athletics and how they do it. It's like interesting to hear that from you. Yeah. Oh, one last question. The piece that you talk about sex, what was the reception like the close friends and family when they had to talk about it?
So that poem, funnily enough, I remember I performed that poem the first time in 2018, and I remember like that particular clip like went viral, that poem the first time, and I didn't know, I had no idea that that poem like was gonna like have that like impact it did. But when people hear that poem, on the surface it just sounds like a snappy poem, like oh, she's talking about sex. That poem is actually really sad. So I feel like when people listen to it more times, they're like, okay, I actually understand what it is you're saying. Yes.
So we have this arc.
Yes.
So from the arc, do like a line going down, and then from that line, create a triangle.
So a line going down and then a triangle.
Go down.
Okay.
See where,
Yeah.
so just do like a line going down first.
Okay. Like here. Like that.
Yeah. And then from the line,
I do a triangle.
triangle.
Okay.
yeah. And then from the triangle, just divide it into two. Then
Into.
just divide the triangle into two. Once you're done.
Okay. Sour. So when people listen to that poem, the more they listen to it, the more like they understand like what it's about. But yeah, I don't know. That I never intended for that poem to like do what it did. But it did, so I don't know, I'm happy, I'm really proud of that poem. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to Creative Shade and find me on all social media at Mumbi Poetry.